Okay, so today I'm going to do something I've never done before. I've got a canvas board. I know you typically use stretch canvas to do this. It's liquid pour, and I'm just going to go for it, see what we get, and we're going to use the open cup method, but I'm going to use a cookie cutter. So let me get my cookie cutter for that. And this is about a 2.5-inch cookie cutter here. I've already pre-mixed my colors, and I've used Artist Loft's pouring medium. That's what I'm using, and it's typically 2 to 1. So 1 part paint, 2 parts pouring medium, and you want to make sure that your paints are the same consistency. So sometimes you have to add a little bit of water because depending on the thickness of the paint, and if you're using, different brands of paint, which I actually have different kinds of paint here. But there is no silicone in these paints. This is just water and pouring medium. Now there is a way you can do this with just water, but I did the pouring medium because it comes out with a sort of a nice finish. So first I've got my white mixed, and you see the consistency that is. That's what you want your paints to be. So for this pouring method, you have to be able to let it float around. So it's got to have something to float on top of. So I'll put down a little bit of white initially, just for the center. I'm going to put that cookie cutter on top of it. And now I'm going to layer the colors. I really like this turquoise color. So I'm just going to put a drop of, just going to do kind of a couple of drops in there. And then I'm going to take some of this, it's a purple, but it came out like a plum color. So I'm going to put that in there because those two colors go good together. Put a little bit of that on top. And then I've got this almost a hot pink magenta kind of color. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. In the center. In the center of that, I've got this metallic silver paint that I mixed up. I'm going to put that in there. And on top of that, I've got this lovely blue. It's like a royal blue in the middle of the silver, which I think will look cool. Now sometimes, depending on the type of paint, it'll pour through the color that you've got in there. And that's all well and good. So let's see, a little bit more of this turquoise in there. I'm going to put it randomly around in there because I really like that color to pop. And then more of this purple. Well, I'll do a little bit of white on top, so kind of like layers it out. Gives a little bit of white in the midst of everything. I'm already getting paint all over my fingers. So let me grab a towel or napkin here. Now you can probably see, or actually can't see, it's trying to ooze out. So before I start lifting this cookie cutter ring, I'm going to put a little bit of white around it so that when I do lift it, it has something to stick to. And I have the painter's tape around it because I don't want it to leak out onto the table. I don't have my big silicone mat yet, so I'm trying to prevent any overspill onto my table here. I do have a silicone mat underneath. I've got some parchment paper down here. Which, like I said, this is the first time I'm doing this method, and we're just going to see what we come up with. You should really see what's going on in here. This is what's going on inside. Inside that cookie cutter is that. So we'll see what happens when I lift it off. Let's see if I can get the camera situated here so you can actually see what's going on. There we go. So I'm going to start lifting it. Just a little. Oops. Well, I lifted it and put it back down. It kind of stuck. But that's okay. So now you'll see the color is oozing out over top of the white. And do that one more time. Lift it. Put it down. This time I'll lift it on this side so you can see some of that beautiful magenta pink coming through there. I was aiming for a dark purple, but I didn't end up with a dark purple. Now I'm going to put in some of this lovely spring green, I call it. Let's see what that does. Because as you're filling it inside the cookie cutter, some of it sinks down and mixes out this way. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. So we'll do this. Lift up one more time. A little bit more of this green here. I really like that color mixed in with everything else. I don't want to use too much paint because I don't want this to fill up so much that I have so much excess paint that it won't dry. So let's go like this. And I know this table is not exactly level. Unfortunately, it's not. And I see some air bubbles creating. They create sometimes what's called cells, which looks like bubbles. And I don't have a heat gun. It hasn't come in the mail yet, so I may have to deal with the bubbles popping by themselves in the meantime. We need more of this green to come through somehow. Let's see if I can coerce it by putting it all to one side. So let's go like this and put it down. And you can see, you can probably see some cells are actually forming on their own over there, which is really cool because I've never had one have cells before. It was always just a swirl. I've done some smaller pieces, but nothing like this. And go like that. One more time. I'm going to move it a little bit. Move that down there. Bring it more towards the center. I think that silver is going to really set it off. And let's go for more of the hot pink. I'm almost out of it anyway, so that's cool. I mean, not out of it, but mixed, pre-mixed I am. So I want that really bright pop of color to come out in it. Now I can just let it come through like this and then tilt it to make it swirl and do its thing, or I can take a blow dryer to it and blow it out, as they call it. But I've also used a regular drinking straw to do the blowing out, and you get a little bit more control when you actually use a straw. I'm going to move this up this way. Let's see what I can get going. I need some white, a little bit more white on this edge, just to give it a place to attach to, so it'll flow. Notice how when you add the white, it starts flowing again, because it has something to grab onto. There we go. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I'm running out of white, so whatever I get, I get. Now, I could probably put another color on the outside of it, have it flow into that. That's an idea, if I have to. Alright, I guess it's about time to just move this up this way. Now that green's coming out. And I'm trying to make it rounded. Just like this. I don't know where that yellow's coming from. Must be coming out of the green. And then I'm going to bring this down, move this down this way. This way. And I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to take it right off of there. See what happens. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to put a little bit of this green on the outside. I don't know why. I just kind of like this color. I don't have any green over here, so I'm going to get it to creep up on the green a little bit. And when you put color on the outside, it forces the colors on the inside to be squished in. And I do have enough silver that I can, because this metallic silver is really going to give it some character. On the edge. A marbling effect, so to speak. Now I can tilt it, try to coerce it into moving a little. I don't have any white over here. I knew I should have mixed up more white, but we'll deal with what we got. I'm going to put some white here. And around this way. Okay. Hopefully I have enough white to finish this lovely piece. Now one thing you can do too is you can pull. You can pull it. So I can take, if you don't have, you can get tongue depressors, or you can get, I'm using bamboo skewers, and just pull color through it. And that will make it flow. I'm just going to do some little squiggly marks here. And see what I get. And now it's oozing down this way because, like I said, this table is not level. Unfortunately, it's not. Bring some of that silver down this way. And the white, bring that white back in this way. I'm just putting some little curves in here. Okay. So now I'm going to start tilting a little bit. And tilt it up. That's why the painter's tape is good, because it keeps it from running onto your table. And you want to do this slow. I actually was moving a little too fast there. Just slowly tilt, let it drip down to where it wants to go. I can't tell if that's paint over there or that's plain dry. I think it's just dry. So it needs something to flow onto. So there we go. Wasn't sure what it was doing over there. So you can move that a little bit that way. And tilt it. Let it run down this way. I really like how the green has separated into the green and yellow, which I hadn't anticipated that. So whenever you run out of blending paint, you have to try to put a little bit in there just so that it has a way of flowing, because it keeps it flowing, hence the fluid painting terminology. Okay. If I run out of this, I may have to use the silver for the edging, which wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly. Now that I've run out of the white, I knew I should have made a double batch, but I wasn't sure how this was going to go. And there's that. And let's tilt it just a little bit this way. See some of that purple's coming through, which is really nice. Now if you see it trying to fill a hole, just edge it in. Just kind of get it wet so that it'll actually flow there. And this end has got a lot of white in it. So I think I'm going to dabble a little of this beautiful red, pink, hot magenta, I guess is what you call it. And throw that in there. Because I've got it on this side, I'd like to have it on both sides. So let's see if we can kind of coerce it. Coerce it. We'll just give it a little swirl. Now, since I don't have any white, I do have this silver. So let's put the silver down the bottom here. Why not? And I'm going to take this part that's swirled over from the other side all the way around. I'm going to let it go all the way around. Now it's going to look like an agate. A stone agate. With a little rosebud thing going on in there on one side. That is really sharp. I really kind of like that. Like I said, I'm trying not to put too much paint in it, but I like a lot of color. So I'm going to put that gob of turquoise in there. And see if I can't trick it into going around. Like this. Come around and into there. Maybe break into there. Who knows? So this will be interesting as it actually dries. There we go. I had a dry spot up here. And sometimes when you pop the tape, you actually coerce paint and to go into a hole that you need to fill. Right. Kind of like that. This is really pretty. Turned out really nice. I don't think I'm going to do any more tilting with it. I'm not going to blow it out because I like this agate look. Except I do have a spot right here that's bald. There we go. And just let it, see how it dries. Be interesting to see how this does dry. Because of that metallic silver that's in there. So if you've never done fluid painting, I highly recommend it. It's very soothing. You don't know what you're going to get till you're done. Now, because this is on a canvas board, I run the risk of it warping because there's so much paint on it. So as long as I have enough, and you can see where some of it's leaking out, which it's going to anyway. It's going to leak out, and it's supposed to. Because you're not supposed to have all that paint in there. Eventually it does kind of find its way out. But tilt it this way just one more time. Push some of that across. And I get like almost like a little galaxy looking thing. And there's a dry spot there. You can see where the paint was so thin that it didn't cover a spot. So you just go in and you tap it and teach it how to go there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take one side of this paint, this part where the small spot is of paint, and take it off. I'm really living dangerous now because I haven't, like I said, this is the first time I've done this, but this is so beautiful. I've got to show you the whole thing before I take the tape off. This is the whole piece. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all those colors and all the swirls. I don't have cells, but I have a lot of swirling, which is what I like. I could care less about the cells. Cells are created by putting silicone in your paint, and what it does is it makes the paint separate, makes these like air bubbly looking things. Now I can go through here and coerce it into looking more marbly by just swirling in spots. I thought I was going to get some cells in the beginning, and I may still. I don't know if there's going to be any air bubbling in this to do that. But I'm going to bite the bullet here. Like I said, never done this. And I'm going to take this one side off because I know all that extra paint on there is not going to be conducive to it drying properly. I'm going to take this one side like that. I'm going to move this little guy I'm going to have to put lids on these jars so they don't dry out. I'll make a mess of myself hot. So, took that little spot off, and this spot was the last that I was actually tilting from. So let me do this side. Now, not to worry, because as it drains off, it covers the edge. And because it's acrylic and the medium in it, it actually hardens the edge. So I'm not too worried about that part. So what I can do is, and I have done with one piece I did before, the excess as it drips off, scoop it up with a plastic knife and put it in a jar, and that'll be like my dirty paint. Everybody has dirty paint. Ends up with dirty paint. Because you don't want this to like really mess up and warp it out. Because then once it's dry, I can put a silicone layer on it, make it good and hard and glossy. And this is how it looks, still wet. And I just see a couple, there might be a couple air bubbles. Now when the air bubbles pop, it gives it a really neat look. So, you know, I don't, like I said, I could take a hairdryer to it and try to pop the bubbles. But I'm going to let them pop on their own. Because they will. And I may end up with, it's almost earthy. And it looks like I didn't use way too much paint for it. So it looks like it's turning out pretty darn good as far as, I call it overspill here at the edge. So I can go across here and scoop that up and put it into a jar I'll call my dirty paint. And save that for like a dark background or something. But the paint colors might separate in the jar, so that'll be a good pour technique. And so that you can see it better. And this is the finished piece with all that beautiful coloring coming through. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is one of my new little art techniques I'm trying out. Just some beautiful swirly abstracts. And hopefully you'll try it too. Please feel free to leave me comments on what you thought about this little endeavor. Let me take some of the light down here so hopefully you can see the color a little bit better. There we go. Now you can actually see. I should have put that brightness down before. I forgot the light in here is pretty bright. Now we'll take one more pass. And we'll start at this end. You can see my lights up there above. See all this beautiful, 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 beautiful movement going on here. Just absolutely gorgeous. And there's that lovely lime green in the center. Let's see if I can give you a nice bird's eye view of that. There you go. Now you can really see. Because this is what it looks like to me, even under the lights. But those lights kind of distort it for you guys. Isn't that gorgeous? So try out fluid painting. It is a blast.